welcome to the Water Saving Seminar for, what month are we in? July. There we go. It's hot. Tonight, please make sure for those of you who are in the room with us, if you could please silence your cell phones now, that would be very helpful. At the end, we will make sure to leave time for questions for our speaker, Heather, tonight. So if you need to, please write down your questions, and we can follow up at the end of class to make it a little bit easier to kind of go through. If you would like to know the information on all of the upcoming seminars and our events, please consider visiting our website, which is savefortworthwater.org. Most importantly on there, you will see our brand new announcement that our biannual huge seminar sponsored with TRWD is actually going to be September 6th. We've just announced it. It is now available to view the details on Eventbrite. That's Yard Smart. That's our half-day seminar. However, the tickets will go on sale in about 1 month. They will be available to reserve in about 1 month. It is a free event. It is bilingual. We have 2 different tracks of speakers, including Miss Heather, I believe, maybe TBD, will be there. So we are so excited. It will be in, plot twist, a new location for the first time in 26 years. Ooh, so we will actually be hosting Yard Smart Ball at the Rose Marine Theater in Fort Worth. Don't worry, great parking, easy peasy to get there, and it's just as close as the Botanic Gardens here. So we will have more details as the event gets a little bit closer, but if you'd like to read a little bit about it in the new location, you again can visit the Fort Worth Water page on Eventbrite and read the details until those tickets go on sale. Keep in mind that here in Fort Worth, our residents can sign up year-round for free toilets, free irrigation evaluations, also sponsored by TRWD, and free smart repair program for low-income customers who need minor leak repairs. If you would like to follow us online, please consider following us at Fort Worth Water on Facebook. On Instagram, we are Save FW Water, and on X, or formerly known as Twitter, we are FW Water, if you'd like to follow along for any of our upcoming classes, announcements, including details on Yard Smart coming up. Okay, tonight we have Heather, Miss Heather Bass, the wonderful. She is a water conservation supervisor at Tarrant Regional Water District in Fort Worth. She has her master's in environmental and earth sciences and a bachelor's in biology, with a focus on conservation and restoration of natural systems. Heather has conducted research on rare Texas plant populations, sustainable landscape practices, prairie restorations, and the effects of climate change on ecosystems. Her duties at TRWD include managing all of the outdoor water conservation projects, and increasing awareness of conservation landscaping practices. Heather enjoys gardening with native Texas plants and spending time in nature, and we are so fortunate to have her, my friend and my colleague, Miss Heather Bass.
Thank you. All right, thank you so much. Am I good to go? Y'all got my mic on and everything? All right, perfect. So I just want to start out by plugging our class series that we're doing here. You can see it on the screen. We're doing 2 online classes every month from June to October. We actually have a drought-tolerant landscaping track. But really all of it is kind of about, different aspects of drought-tolerant landscaping. So free, it's online. You can watch it from the comfort of your home. So please check that out if you're interested in all of those topics, a few of those topics, whatever. You can sign up for as few or as many as you like. All right, so I'm going to talk about gardening for drought. First, I'm going to just talk about drought in general, kind of a little bit why it's important, why we should think about it, what it means in terms of our water supply. And then I'm going to talk about some different ways that you can do smart things within your home landscape and your garden to mitigate some of the negative effects of drought. So like Kelsey said, I'm from Tarrant Regional Water District. If you don't know who we are, I'm just going to talk a little bit about that. So we are your raw water providers here in Tarrant County and in surrounding areas. So what that means is we own these lakes. We manage these lakes that you see here on the screen. And To everyone else, they're lakes, but to us, they are surface reservoirs. That's what we call them, and this is where we capture and store our water. We use these giant pipelines that are the orange lines you see there, pumping that water from East Texas back up to Tarrant County. So at that point, it's raw, untreated, just lake water. We pump it out to cities, just like Fort Worth here in Tarrant County. They take that into their drinking water treatment plants, they treat it to drinking water standards, and they pump it out to all of our homes and businesses. So that's where we're at in the water supply. We also do flood control, so maintaining the levees and flood zones and everything around the Trinity River. And then recreation as well. So of course there's recreation opportunities associated with those lakes. You know, you can go swim and boat and fish and all of those wonderful things. And then we've got the Trinity Trail system that you guys probably know about, and various parks and things like that associated with both the lakes and the Trinity River. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit first, just super basics. What is drought? What do we mean when we're talking about drought? So it's a prolonged period of abnormally low rainfall, and that leads to a shortage of water. So what we've got going on now is they're increasing in frequency, they're increasing in duration, they're increasing in severity. Climate change overall, we know, is making things just hotter and drier, but it's also increasing those boom and bust cycles and those extreme weather conditions. So our droughts are getting longer and droughtier. You know, our times when we have a lot of rainfall, we get a whole bunch of rainfall all at once, and then there's just these prolonged periods with no rainfall whatsoever. And of course, we live here in an urban area. All of that is exacerbated by the heat island effect. We've got all this concrete, right? And so not only is it hotter because of that heat island effect, but that water can't soak into the ground like it needs to whenever it does rain, in order to store that water in our soils, and then also to mitigate flooding and replenish our groundwater sources, right? And so, like I said, our water supply does come from surface water, surface reservoirs, but there are a lot of us that still have like wells and things like that, and so those groundwater reservoirs are also depleting along with our surface water reservoirs. All right, so let's talk about the U.S. Drought Monitor. So we're going to talk about two kind of different types of drought that sometimes people can get a little bit confused. Right now, we're doing great. I mean, this is the best I've seen this map in probably the last 5 years that I've worked for TRWD. I'm thinking I've almost never seen our area be white and not have some type of, you know, color on it. So we're doing great right now. But you can go to the U.S. Drought Monitor website. They release a map every single week telling you how we're doing right now, and you get these different colors based on, you know, how our drought is. You can see that, of course, the southwestern side of our state is still in drought. It's pretty much always in drought down there, but yeah, we're doing good now, but we stay pretty droughty. So this is looking at the state or the United States telling you, are we in an abnormal weather pattern right now, right? When it comes to more locally, when we look at drought, we're looking at our water supplies, right? And so this is what our water supplies looked like at June 22nd. We're doing great right now. Again, we've gotten so, if you've lived here for years, you know that this is abnormal, right? Usually in July, we are not getting this much rain, and it is already like 104 degrees outside, and sometimes we haven't seen rain already for like a month or a month and a half or something like that. So these are all our lakes. We look at, you know, constantly, we're looking at this water supply. What is it looking like? Right now, it's looking great. But when it comes to, for us, you probably have heard us going into like drought stages, right? And you'll hear this from like your city water department, and you might hear it from TRWD. And so when our water supplies that we have in our lakes go down a certain percentage, you'll see that we start enacting water restrictions, right? And so this is us determining that based on our water resources, whether we are in a drought stage or not, essentially, right? And so you can see those different stages. This is so incredibly simplified. Our water plan, our drought plan You can go look it up on trwd.com or on safetarrantwater.com, and you can look at all the details. But this is in general when we say we're going into drought. So we might be technically in drought according to the U.S. Drought Monitor, but our supplies are fine, and so we're not in a drought stage necessarily, right? Or because of other triggers, because it's not always just our water supply, we could be in drought when we're not technically in drought. Yeah, do you have a question?
Question on the previous slide.
Yeah, sure.
It showed the lakes, right?
Uh-huh.
And was the LW, was that Lake Weatherford?
That is,
Or is that Lake Worth?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, nope, that's not Weatherford, that's Lake Worth that you're seeing on there.
Like Lake Weatherford is like
Nope.
580 feet down.
Yep, and LA is like Arlington, BB, that's Benbrook, RC is Richland Chambers, CC is Cedar Creek, and BP is Bridgeport up there. Yep. Yep, you got it. Okay, so going back to our stages of drought, we have different watering restrictions based on those stages of drought. And I want to point out that it's not just how much is left in our storage system, but also if we're exceeding our delivery capacity. So there could be tons of water in the lake, but we can only pump so much at once. Like the pipes are only so big, right? And so if everybody's using a ton of water, even if we have a ton of water, we only have a certain amount of capacity. In terms of the cities, they only have a certain amount of capacity they can pump out at once. We only have a certain amount of capacity we can pump, into their water treatment plants at once, basically, right? And of course, it takes time to treat water as well. All right. So here's what we look like in a year in terms of our water usage. You see how much more we use in August than we use in like wintertime? That's all outdoor irrigation. So during the summertime, 60 to 70% of our total water use goes to outdoor irrigation. This is just people watering their grass. Look at how much that is. 600 million gallons a day. That's how much we're pumping out during the summertime. That's a lot. That's a lot of water, right? And not only that, but you have to think about evaporation as well. These are surface reservoirs, and they're just open to the elements. So when it's super hot outside, people are watering their lawns like crazy. We're also getting evaporation coming out of our lakes a lot as well, right? And so you can imagine it's not just that 600 million gallons a day coming out. It's also however much it is evaporating at that point in time. So, like I said, you can look at that graph and you can tell during the summertime, basically we are using so much water, and it's pretty much people watering their lawns, specifically St. Augustine lawns, because St. Augustine is just such a high water use grass. It's a tropical grass, #1 irrigated crop in the United States. And it's doing nothing for us, right? Like, we're not eating it. We're not grazing our cows on it. I don't know, none of that. All right, so think about that, the graph before. All right, so now we've got, over the next 50 years, our population is predicted to double. So we're already pumping that much water during the summertime. You see how often we're building houses, and all this. Think about that demand doubling. Right? How are we going to provide for that? How are we going to provide that much water? How are we going to pump that much water to everyone, right? It's a big question. So I want to show you. For us, conservation is such an important water supply strategy, and this is why. This is a graph that's looking over the next 50 years. This is for Region C, so this isn't just for Tarrant County, this is for our entire region here. This is how Texas breaks up their water regions. That line is demand, and those bars are supply. Now you can see that demand is far exceeding supply, right? And that's all because of that outdoor watering. If people weren't watering their grass, we have plenty of water for everyone's, showering and food and, all the things that we need water for. This is just people watering their grass that we have to plan for in the future. So our wonderful engineers and smart water supply planners at TRWD, they have to look into the future, and they look at these different scenarios, right? How much water are we going to need in the future? How are we going to provide that water in the future, okay? And these are, I'm not going to go through all these scenarios. They go through so many different scenarios. They are so incredibly smart. But I just want to point out the cost. So looking at some of those, if people keep watering their yards the way that they're watering them, and we need to keep supplying water to this double population at that same amount, water rates are going to go through the roof. Think about if you have to pay 3 times what your water bill currently is. Some of those, think about you might have to pay 8 times what your water bill currently is. Could you afford that? Do you care that much about your grass to pay that much? But here's the, yeah, exactly, boo, boo. That's right. But think about this. It's not just the people who are watering their grass that those rates are going up for. It's just regular people too, right? Like poorer people that can barely afford their water bill right now. So think about the ethics of that, because some people want to water their grass like crazy. We're going to raise water rates in the future for everyone, even those people who aren't watering their lawns, even those people who don't have a lawn at all. Maybe you live in an apartment or something like that. And as you probably know, cities like Fort Worth are gracious, and they have these programs for lower income people, right, that will help them with their water bill. How many more people do you think are going to have to use that assistance if our water rates increase, if they increase double, triple, 8 times what they are now? And who pays for that, right? It's either going to be other people's water rates or taxes. So it's important. It's important to all of us. And not only that, but some of these, you can see some of these scenarios include getting new water supplies, aka building a new lake, right? So if you were a farmer or rancher in East Texas, and TRWD came to you and said, we are going to eminent domain you, and we're taking your 100 acres because people in Fort Worth want to water their grass. What would you think about that? Would you be happy? No, you'd be mad, right? That's your family land. Maybe you've had it in your family for 5 generations. And you're grazing cattle. You're already providing, fruits and vegetables for us or whatever you're growing on your land. And then we're coming in here saying we're going to take that from you so people can water their grass,
If they build new homes, why don't they put in the buffalo grass and stuff like that? Because they're building thousands of new homes.
You got it, yes.
And they're not putting in buffalo grass, they're putting in
Yep,
gosh.
absolutely, yep. Tell it to your city council and make them make development laws to where we stop this from happening in the future, because that's exactly what we want. That's exactly what we tell people. But then the developers and the people who are buying the houses, they push back against it, right? And so you have this political battle where, you've got these people on this side that are like, no, we don't want it. And these people on this side that are like, I'm going to water as much as I want. I can have the biggest lawn that I want. And if I can afford it, then you can't tell me what to do.
Has Fort Worth Water talked to the legislators, or do we have a group that does?
So I don't know about Fort Worth Water. She's shaking her head yes. But TRWD, of course, we employ lobbyists. They go to the Texas legislature, they go to the United States legislature and tell them, what we need and looking at water use and stuff. But there's also bills that are introduced all the time that say, we can't make new water supplies and things like that. And so, there's differing opinions, and there are different people who have different stakes in the game, right? So, but it does take you would think that because we're the government, we could just go to the cities and say, like, change your development laws, and they're like, okay, we're going to do that. But no, they don't. And so it really takes the citizens saying, that they want to see these things happen. Yeah, you got a question over there?
I just want to say it really can make a difference. The reason that all the construction is going on, the reason they are now offering Texas bluegrass, is that what it is? In addition to Bermuda and St. Augustine, is because somebody wrote into their city councilman and said, what the heck
Yep.
is going on here?
Yeah, anyone who's ever been to a city council meeting probably sees that there's not that many residents that are there. Not that many people care enough to take time out of their day to go and talk to their city council or write them a letter or whatever. So that's why these things are important, and that's why these things matter to everybody. So I'm going to talk now about happier things. get off my soapbox a little bit, but this is our jobs, you know, that we do here, and that's why we're here. So we're going to talk about gardening for drought. First, we're going to talk about how to use your water more efficiently. Then we're going to talk about how to design your landscape to use your water more efficiently and for drought resilience. We're going to talk about alternative water supplies and using some of the water that we have that we're not using. And then we're going to talk about drought-tolerant plants. All right, so first, using your irrigation efficiently. So looking back, we saw that 60%, 70% of that summertime water use goes to outdoor irrigation. Most of that is automatic sprinkler systems. 50% of that is wasted just due to inefficiencies. You know, it's evaporation, it's spraying the sidewalk, people have leaks that they don't know about, they're running it only at 3 o'clock in the morning, they never see that there's water bubbling out of a pipe or whatever. So in the summertime, right, that means that 30 to 35% of our water is just being wasted, right? And so looking at your sprinkler system, if you do have an automatic sprinkler system, making sure that you're looking at it, like even if you run it typically during the middle of the night, like every month or so, go over and, you know, let it run for a few minutes on each zone, check everything, make sure you're not spraying the sidewalk, that type of thing. Look for leaks. A lot of times leaks, it's just like the head has cracked because it's plastic. And a lot of times you just have to just go to the store and buy like another $5 head, unscrew the one and screw in another one. Like it's the easiest fix on earth, right? So that's definitely something. Evaporation, wind, just don't water when it's windy. High pressure, Fort Worth knows there are certain neighborhoods that really have really high pressure, and that's because they have to pump it out really pressurized to get it like further beyond that neighborhood or whatever, right? The more development we have, the more urban sprawl we have, the more pressure we have to use to pump that water out to get it to the end of the line. And so, as you know, if you're spraying out something in high pressure, it atomizes, right? And you've got all this spray coming out, and so you can get pressure regulating sprinkler heads that will regulate that pressure down. You can get a pressure reduction device that goes before your irrigation system that will reduce that pressure down, so that's not happening. And then that picture is a multi-stream nozzle. So that's a technology that they have that you can just, unscrew your current head, screw in this head, and instead of like spraying out all these tiny little particles, it's these streams, right? And so they are not going to evaporate as much because the water is coming out in thick streams instead of spraying out. Water, only 6 p.m. to 10 a.m. That is the rule here in Fort Worth and for most of Tarrant County, but make sure you're doing that. Night is better than morning in terms of drought tolerance, and I'll tell you why. So a lot of times you might have heard this gardening wisdom that says, well, don't water at night because then the water's like sitting on your plants over at night and it's gonna grow some mold or something like that. That might happen up north, but that doesn't happen here in the south, not in the summertime. It's too hot for that. But what does happen when you water at night is that evaporative cooling is happening, and so your plants are going to open their stomata, which is their plant pores, basically, right? So during the daytime, it's hot. One of their things that they do is they close their pores so that they're not losing water, right, out of their bodies, basically. So once you cool down that temperature at night, they have all night where their stomata is open and they are processing water and they are living and they are thriving before it gets hot again the next morning. If you're watering at like 4 a.m. or 5 a.m., they have like 3 hours before it gets to 100 degrees again during the summertime, right? And then they're closing down their stomata again. And so they're essentially dormant during that time because they're not able to, process what they do, their evapotranspiration that plants like to do. So water at night. As soon as it gets dark at night, start watering at like 10 p.m. or something like that. So they have this whole night to recuperate from the horrible day that it has been for them during our summers. The cycle and soak method, of course, runoff is so common with our clay soils. As you probably know, once your clay soils dry out, it's hard for them to rehydrate. And so if you're, let's say, running your entire 20 minutes of your sprinkler system that needs to be watered per zone, and maybe it like soaks in for the first 7 minutes, and then after that it just starts running off because the soil can't take any more like that quickly, right? So you want to break that up. Water 5 minutes for each zone, and then let your sprinkler cycle run for 4 different times, right? So you're running 5 minutes, that zone gets to sit and wait for an hour, soak in and everything, then another 5 minutes, that type of thing. And then of course drip irrigation. Drip irrigation is always going to be more efficient. You don't get that evaporation, you don't get that overspray, right? You're putting that water right where it needs to go, right into the plant. It also puts out water at a slower rate, and so you're not having that runoff and everything that's happening. And also, if you know about your watering restrictions, you don't have to adhere to these 2 times a week watering restrictions if you have drip irrigation. So if you're in Fort Worth and you've got your watering days, that only applies to spray irrigation. You can water anytime you want on drip. And of course, you can see it here in this picture, but if you have drip irrigation, you would cover that with mulch. So it's not, you don't see these ugly pipes and everything going around. And of course, if you don't want to check your sprinkler yourself, that's fine. We'll do it for you. Just like Kelsey said, you can sign up for a free sprinkler evaluation. You should have a rain and freeze sensor on your sprinkler system. If you don't, and you live in the city of Fort Worth, we'll give you one. So definitely sign up for this. We'll send a licensed irrigator out to your house. Their entire company does not do any paid for irrigation fixes or installations or anything. All they do is this for us. So their agenda is not selling you something. They're going to tell you the truth, right? So we're not going to, you get a regular sprinkler people out and maybe you can't trust them because you're like, oh, they're just trying to sell me a service, right? They might be saying I need to replace all my nozzles just because they want me to pay them to replace, all the nozzles. But we'll give you advice you can trust.
So if you don't have a sprinkler system and are interested in a sprinkler system, can you call them also?
No, it's only if you already have one.
Okay.
But TRWD does offer a list of green.
Yes, we have a list of green professionals on our website that have gone through our green professional courses that we partner with Texas A&M AgriLife on, and that know about these, efficient technologies. Yep. Thanks for bringing that up, Kelsey. All right, let's talk a little bit about designing for drought. We're gonna talk about your soil. You want to keep your water in your soil, right? This water's free, the stuff that's fallen from the sky. Clay soils are hard to rehydrate. Sandy soils don't hold water as much, right? And so most of us probably have clay, but you might have sandy. It just depends on what neighborhood you live in. But you need organic matter in there. Whether you have clay or sand, you need organic matter in there that's going to soak, it's going to soak into that organic matter and hold that water in your soils. And mulch, at least 3 inches deep, Texas native hardwood mulch. Apply it in the early spring. If you feel like you need to, you can apply it in the fall as well. If you feel like it's gone away a little bit or whatever, it just matters how fast it's processing in. And that mulch is going to add organic matter to your soil, right? So you can top dress with mulch and then let it break down, and over the years that makes its way down into your soil and will add organic matter to your soil. But it's so important to keep that water in your soil once we get it. Adding native plants can really help with that. So first of all, we're creating microclimates. So when you have large, thick plants, they're covering the ground, right? And so that direct sunlight isn't getting to the ground, and underneath there it's staying cooler, and that water's not evaporating out of your soils. They also have really deep roots. So you can see all the way to the left there's our piddly little grass, and those tiny little roots underneath there. That's why grass is so dang weak. It's got 3-inch, 4-inch, of roots coming down, where these native plants are reaching down, feet, meters down into the ground. That's how they survive out in the prairie naturally. They're getting those groundwater sources way down there. But not only that, but they're breaking up our clay soils, and they're creating small little streams and holes, little fissures, where when it does rain, that water is penetrating down into your clay soil and getting down in there, going down those roots. Also, those roots are over time, you're creating new roots, but you're also breaking down the old roots that are dying, and so that's also adding that organic matter to your soil. And we all know what shade can do. It can decrease temperatures by 20 to 30 degrees, so less evaporation and those microclimates, keeping it cool. And it's okay to be brown sometimes. Brown doesn't always mean dead, it just means dormant, right? And so some of these native plants and non-native plants, their natural way that they deal with our hot summers sometimes is to just not stay so green, and that's okay. They're not necessarily dead. There are a lot of plants, you can water them as much as you want during the summertime. They're not going to green up. They're going to just stay brown because that's their natural tendency, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be the brightest of green, all summer long. Yeah?
This is going back to the previous visual you had on the mulch.
Yeah, the mulch.
Is there any particular mulches that you would recommend and any particular mulches you would avoid?
Yes, okay. Texas native hardwood mulch. That is what I recommend. Avoid all the dyed mulches. Those are not going to break down. Avoid all the mulches that are like, you want the mulch to look shredded, right? So like long pieces that look like a shredded tree. The ones that are like a chunk, like a square, those are not going to break down that well. And a lot of times the reason why they're dyeing that mulch is because it's not like natural wood. It's like a particle board or something that's already been treated and then broken up. And so it's treated wood. It's the reason why it's treated is for it not to decompose in our like homes and our furniture and stuff that they use this particle type of wood to make. And so it's not going to break down the same. And it could add some bad chemicals and stuff that you don't want in there. So you want native hardwood mulch, shredded, triple shredded.
Can you get the native hardwood mulch at your box store?
Yeah, you can get it at like Lowe's, Home Depot, whatever, that type of thing. It'll say it like right on the box too, or on the bag or whatever. Yeah, and you can see our cute little boys there. They're demonstrating how deep those roots go down, and grasses have a different type of roots than like flowers, right? So grasses have a lot of tiny fibrous roots, whereas a lot of flowers have like one big tap root that's going down with roots going like sideways like this off of it. So our native grasses, I'm not talking about turf grass, I'm talking about our large, tall grass prairie, native clumping grasses. They have these roots that you want that are going to break up your soil and allow water to infiltrate in there. And this is going a little tiny bit off topic, but I do want to talk a little bit about just like designing your landscape for cooling. So the cooler your landscape is, the less evaporation you're going to have, right? The more water that you're going to keep in your soils. But it can also help with the temperature of your house, right? So you can decrease your energy bill by quite a bit just by shading your house in the summertime. Like I said, 20 to 30 degrees difference. So instead of 100 degrees piping down on the top of your roof, maybe it's only 85 degrees or so coming down on your roof, and so your cooling bills are going to be a whole lot lower. You can also use landscaping to manage wind and ventilation around your house, and so you might want to bring a breeze in. Some places you might want to block a breeze if you've got like a hard wind coming in. Maybe in the wintertime you want to block those cold winds, but then in the summertime maybe you want a bit of a breeze to cool off your lawn or whatever. And so there's a lot you can do just with designing your landscape in a natural way that is going to manipulate that and change the microclimate around your house. All right, so let's talk about what we like to call the 1/3 rule. This is what we recommend. 1/3 functional turfgrass lawn, 1/3 permeable hardscape, and 1/3 ornamental beds. And it doesn't have to be like a wedge, 1/3 all together. You break it up or whatever. All your lawn doesn't have to be in one place. All your beds don't have to be in one place, that type of thing. Let's talk about functional lawn. That's a picture of buffalo grass right there. Kelsey was talking about buffalo grass. That's what it looks like. She's right. It has a beautiful foot feel, especially compared to St. Augustine, because St. Augustine has a really thick, big blade of grass, and it can kind of feel sticky if you like to walk around barefoot. But the buffalo grass have these really long, like wispy, thin blades that are really nice. But functional lawn, functional. Is it functional? If the most amount of time you spend with your lawn is when you're mowing it, it's not functional. So we're talking about, like, do you like to play badminton outside? Are you doing some cornhole? You know, do you have kids that like to play outside? Do you have a dog that needs to go play outside? Like I said, St. Augustine, it's a tropical grass. I think we all know we do not live in a tropical area here. So it's really, we're working against nature here to have St. Augustine grass. So that native buffalo grass is going to be your best. And I see people a lot of times, hold on, I'll get to your question 1 second. I see people a lot of times that will have areas that are shady, and the St. Augustine won't grow in that area, and they constantly are trying to replace it, and they're like, I don't know why the grass won't grow here. But like, it's because it's so shady, right? And you're never going to get any grass to grow. If St. Augustine can't grow there, just replace it with something else. A native shade-tolerant plant, a ground cover, something like that. Stop replacing the grass over and over again. I see my neighbors sometimes. I've lived in my house for like 6 years, and they'll replace the same bare ground, I mean, every year. And I'm like, how many times do you do the same thing and not realize, like, oh, maybe I should try something different? Isn't that like the definition of insanity or whatever, right? Okay, did you have a question back there?
I was just curious about mowing.
Oh, yeah. What about it?
How long does it get?
So this is unmowed. Okay, this is what it's going to look like unmowed. This is fresh. It just grew. I put sod in. This is probably like 3-4 weeks after we put sod in, something like that. It has not been grown yet or mowed yet. This is about the longest that it's going to get. You can keep it long. It doesn't like to be mowed short like a golf course. You can't do that with buffalo grass. It needs to be mowed less often and a little bit higher than you would.
3 inches or what? 3-inch mow or?
No, I would go with more like 4 inches or something like that if you could. But honestly, like, it's okay to just leave it. It's about 6 inches, you know, when it's not mowed at all. You can leave it like that. Once it starts to get scraggly, you know, like at TRWD, we have a lot of buffalo grass and on our campus. I think we mow it like 3 times a year or 4 times a year or something like that. So we just, you know, kind of let it grow a little bit, and then when we need to mow it, when it starts to look a little scraggly or haggard, you start to get some runners, you know, you can mow that. Yeah, you got a question?
Is there a grass? I'm your neighbor. I don't replace it every year, but we've had that fungus go through the St. Augustine, and I have a lot of shade. What would you suggest to fill in that dirt?
I would suggest
Is there grass, or should I go with ground cover? It's not in a convenient spot, so.
if it's shady, and you're getting like fungus growth, which usually means it's staying, you know, wet.
Yeah.
I would definitely go with more like a ground cover, a native ground cover. And there are lots of different things you can do, like horse herb is great, frog fruit is great, snake herb is a good one. You know, these are all really good ground covers.
Horse herb lasts through the winter, or does it die back and then come back?
It will last through the winter, depending on, you know, how severe the winter is. But yeah, it pretty much lasts through the winter. Frog fruit too. It'll do pretty good. Yeah. Yep.
So just one quick
Mhm.
on buffalo grass. It
Yep.
likes full sun.
Buffalo grass wants full sun. Yes, it likes it hot. It likes it sunny. So you definitely can't put this in the shade or anything like that. If you have super shady areas, St. Augustine is going to be the only grass that's going to work in those shady areas. If it's too shady for St. Augustine, then no grass is going to do it for you, and you're going to have to go to a non-grass. Oh, you got a question?
I have some, well, it looks like, it has feathers like St. Augustine, but then it's got little bitty baby blue flowers that come on it.
Oh, blue-eyed grass, I think is probably what that is. It's not a grass, but people think it looks like a grass. So.
Hold it up all the time, but it kind of will grow in with St. Augustine.
Mhm.
I've got a lot that I rescued and put in pots.
Yeah,
And then I was going to try and put it in the yard, but
if you like it, put it in your yard.
just
But yeah, look up blue-eyed grass. That's probably what it is. Yeah, it looks like a grass, but not technically a grass.
It opens up in the morning, but in the afternoon it closes.
Yep. It probably is that. It could be dayflower. There's another one with a blue flower that is dayflower, but it's probably blue-eyed grass is what you're thinking about. It's a common, like, I won't say weed, but easily growing plant. All right. So then next, we've got our 1/3 ornamental beds. Of course, I'm going to recommend native plants. If you're looking for drought tolerance, you're looking at native plants, right? Plants that are native to this area don't need supplemental irrigation. They support pollinators. I recommend perennials because they're going to come back year after year and you don't have to worry about like replanting or reseeding. And they're going to use 20 to 30% of the water that St. Augustine uses. So when we calculate water use of a plant or when we calculate the water needs of a plant, we use what is called a plant factor, where we're talking about what percentage of the evapotranspiration that happens for a plant needs to be replaced with supplemental irrigation, right? And so for St. Augustine, we typically look at about 70 to 80% of that evapotranspiration needing to be replaced with supplemental irrigation. For native plants, it can be anywhere from 0% to 20%, 30% maybe for your high water use native plants. So if you get plants that are native to this area, obviously they grow out in the wild without any help from any of us, and so they don't need any irrigation at all. If you want to maybe water them a little bit, maybe they'll stay a little bit prettier for a little bit longer during the summertime or create some more blooms, right? That type of thing, bloom a little bit longer. But if you want plants that you literally just get them established and you don't have to do anything at all after that, native plants are your thing. If you want to just reduce your water use, that's fine too, and you can use native plants to do that. But don't just think about flowers. There's like shrubs, vines, grasses. There's a lot of different types of things, cacti, succulents. Trees, bushes. When you're talking about Texas wildflowers, those are typically annuals. So those are plants that are going to die each year, right, and come back from seed. And so sometimes you might have to reseed those. Sometimes they reseed themselves, just depending on what plant it is. And then, of course, vegetables, herbs, fruit trees, fruit bushes. Yes, you might have to irrigate those things, but at least you're getting something from the crop. We're not just irrigating for the sake of nothingness. We're getting tomatoes or blackberries or whatever you have planted. And then 1/3 permeable hardscape. So what we mean by permeable hardscape is areas that do not need water, but where the water can still soak in. So we don't want it to be like concrete or pavers with grout in between, because the water's not going to soak in, right? And it's just going to exacerbate our issues that we have with all of our concrete, urban, stormwater problems that we have, right? So we want water to soak in, but we don't want to have to water it. So we're talking about paths, patios, outdoor living, get yourself a fire pit, a barbecue area, seating area, prayer garden, yoga garden, meditation garden, these type of things. Add some interest to your landscape, right? That isn't just plants. So that's what we recommend, and I just want to highlight this really awesome book. Buy it, get it from your local library or whatever. Native Plants, Landscaping Region by Region. Waskowski, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but it's two people. I assume they're like maybe husband and wife or something because they both have the same last name. But they have some amazing nature-based landscape designs in this book. And so they're looking at our Texas landscapes, our natural ecosystems, and creating yard designs based on those natural ecosystems. So for us in this area, we're going to be either like the post oak savanna type thing or the blackland prairie. And so those are two different ones. One has trees, one doesn't, as you can imagine from what a post oak area would be versus what a prairie would be. There's also one for like the hill country, which is also pretty much anything that will grow, in Austin area, San Antonio and stuff. It usually will grow in this area as well. So they have some really great hill country type of home landscape designs. They've got one that they call Create-A Woods. So if you live in a wooded area and you want to just have a bunch of shade, they've got one for you. Shrubs. Yeah, you have a question back there and back?
Could you spell that person's name? I can't.
Yes. Wasowski. Got it? Okay. It's a great book. I recommend it. take a look. They've got some amazing information in there, and they've got some really cool designs. So, like, you don't have to do anything yourself. The design's just there. It's already made. It's already all Texas native plants. Just, you know, apply it to your landscape or whatever. A wildlife garden, sand garden, if you like that sort of thing. If you like a more like desert style or whatever, that's cool. You know, we don't necessarily recommend that a lot, and that's because you still get a lot of that radiative heat, right? If you have a ton of rocks and sand and stuff. Also, we live in a prairie ecosystem. We're not quite dry enough to support like a desert ecosystem. So typically you'll get a lot of like weeds growing in your sand areas or whatever because this isn't a desert and things will grow there. So I totally recommend this book. Awesome book. Take a look at it. Like I said, get it from your local Fort Worth Library branch. All right, let's talk about alternative water supplies. I know it doesn't seem like this is an alternative, but for some reason people think it is. But rain, this should be our primary water supply. But, you know, it's free. It falls on your property for free. So use what is falling on your property. A lot of people have just where they've got maybe a sloped lawn and they've got really short mowed grass, and when we have these really hard rain events, the water just, it's a sheet, right? And it's just flowing off their yard, and that's all your free water. You could be taking that. So looking at just your average house, 2,000 square foot house, 2,000 square foot roof, 1 inch is going to produce over 1,250 gallons of water. Our annual average is 35 to 36 inches of water in this area, so that's over 45,000 gallons of water a year if you just care to capture it all. And that's not even what's falling on your landscape itself, right? That's just what's falling on your roof, coming off your roof. Texas A&M AgriLife, they have a really cool calculator graph thing that you can go on there, and you can type in like the size of your roof, and it'll show you average rainfalls and like how big your cistern needs to be in order to capture all that and keep it all, because you know if you only have like a 50-gallon rain barrel, that's going to fill up pretty quick, right? But you could have a 10,000 square foot yard full of native plants and it all be 100% taken care of by this 45,000 gallons a year that you're getting off of your 2,000 square foot roof. So rainwater harvesting is very helpful. Also, there's other water that's falling on your property, right? It's not just falling on your roof, it's falling on the rest of your property as well. So use land, terraforming, earthworks to capture that water, right? So you can create terraces, especially if you have a sloped type of yard. You can also do what we like to call like a treatment train. So let's say you've got a rain barrel. It's coming off your roof. It's going into your rain barrel. Then your rain barrel begins to overflow at some point in time. That rain barrel overflows into your dry creek bed, right? And then that dry creek bed meanders through your yard, and that water is slowing down. It's soaking into your soil as it meanders. And then at the end of your dry creek bed, once that water gets to the end of it, if it's a big enough rain event, it hits, let's say, a rain garden, right? And you've got a berm set up at the back of that rain garden, a dam basically, right? And so you're letting that water stay within your landscape, and you're giving it time to soak into your soil and be kept in your soil for your plants to use at a later date rather than it just flowing off. Because remember, we got clay soils and it takes some time, especially when they've been dry for a really long period of time. So using things like this are really helpful to help slow down that velocity of water, which can also help with erosion, can help with localized flooding. It can help you put water on your landscape where you want it to go, right? So you can have some ditches and some swales. Maybe it comes off of your rain barrel, it overflows from your rain barrel, and you've got a little area where it's piped over to your vegetable garden, right? So your vegetable garden is the first place all that water goes, and you've created some type of little irrigation ditch or something like that. That's what I personally do with my rain barrel. The first thing it goes to when it overflows is my tomato patch, and there's a little like snaky, ditch that goes through all of my tomatoes and captures all that water so that it hopefully soaks into my tomatoes first before it goes out into my ornamental plants. More alternative water sources. Reuse. Put a bucket in your shower. Just get like a 3-gallon bucket, a 5-gallon bucket, something like that, and just like put it next to you in the shower. It will capture so much water. Put it in there while your shower's heating up, before you're even in the shower. Take that 5-gallon bucket out after you're done and clothed, and then take it outside, you know, water your pear tree or whatever you want with it. If you have a fish tank, man, those nutrients are amazing. That fish poop, plants love it, right? Capturing your AC condensation. You see this sign right here. This is from the Tarrant County Master Gardener's Demonstration Garden. They have, there's like behind them like a storage barn type thing or whatever where the Tarrant County stores some of their stuff. And you can see there, they've got, I mean, this is probably a larger air conditioner than most of us have, but for their 5-ton air conditioners, they've got 2 65-gallon tanks that are collecting the condensate. On a typical summer day, each collects 70 gallons. So it's 140 gallons of water per day during the summer that is coming off of these air conditioners. So, you know, most of us probably don't have the 5-ton system on our houses or whatever, but we've got something. And there's a lot of water coming off of that. Your clothes washing machine. Don't put it on your edible plants, but that can go straight onto, you know, your ornamental plants. That soap is not gonna, it's diluted enough, it is not going to hurt your plants. Same thing with your dishwashing stuff. Like if you're the type of person that gets like a bucket and fills that with water, like a bin, fills that with water and soap and then washes your dishes in that, take that bin, go dump it outside. The soap is not harsh enough that it is going to hurt, you know, your whatever ornamental plants you have, bushes and things like that. So there's a lot of, if you just think about, you know, reusing water, there's a lot of different sources that we can use. So if it's during a droughty time or underwater restrictions, you can't water your lawn or whatever with, you know, treated water from your faucet. There's plenty of other places you can get water from. All right, lastly, let's talk about some drought-tolerant plants. Texas native plants, they're beautiful. Trees, shrubs, the large grasses. I can't emphasize the grasses enough. It's so healthy for your landscape to have these large clumping style grasses. They are interesting. They add interest and texture, you know, and height. A lot of them are, you know, taller than me at full grown. So they add a lot to the look of your garden. You can also do like a mass planting like you see there if you like kind of that look. They also have some really good fall color. So a lot of our native grasses, they are going to bloom during the fall time, and so you get these beautiful wispy, feather-like, you know, cottony type of blooms there that happen, and then they'll turn like a beautiful, you know, orangey, reddish color. But think about vines, cacti, succulents, ground covers. If you are doing like vegetables and stuff like that, do our Texas cultivars, right? So you can go to like Texas A&M AgriLife, for instance, and they will tell you, you know, there's a billion strains of tomatoes out there. Not all of them are going to grow great in Texas, right? And so look at what are the strains of those vegetables that are recommended for this area. What are recommended for areas that are, you know, drier and hotter and that type of thing, and you will have a lot more success with those. I know one thing that I've heard is for a lot of our like berry bushes, so like blackberries and stuff like that, the ones that are named after like the Native American tribes that are from this area, those are going to grow well in this area. So you have like Comanche blackberries or something like that, you know that it's going to grow well in this area because it's named after one of our local tribes. All right, now I'm just going to talk about some plants that I have that are native, that are beautiful, that I literally don't water. I mean, I got them established, of course. I watered them in a little bit at the beginning when I planted them. But this is about 10 plants or so that you can plant that will survive our droughty summers with little to no intervention at all. Millie Blue Sage is great. I love it because it blooms all the time. Pretty much if it's not below freezing, this thing is blooming. And bumblebees love it, butterflies love it, the giant carpenter bees love it. If you've ever seen like the teddy bear bee is what it's called. It's like the male of one of our native carpenter bees. It's like fuzzy and tan. It looks like a teddy bear. There's some amazing pollinators that will come on your mealy blue sage if you've got some of that. Zexmini or Wedelia is another one. This one is so incredibly drought tolerant. Again, just keeps on blooming throughout the spring all the way to the fall, and spreads pretty easily by seed if you want it to. If not, you can dig it up and take it somewhere else, kind of like a low mounding bush type of thing, 1 to 2 feet tall or so. And lots of these just tiny, tiny little yellow flowers. Our smaller butterflies and our smaller native bees love it. Rock rose is a good one. If you like that hibiscus looking flower, that more like tropical type of looking flower, this is a really good one. It creates like a small bush, needs very little water or care. It's a great plant. There is a moth called the southern pink moth, and it is perfect color to just camouflage itself on these rock roses. And so you'll see this bright pink moth just hanging out on your bright pink flowers. It's beautiful. Cutleaf daisy or Engelmann's daisy, this one's super hardy. It's going to create like a rosette at the bottom. That's this bottom picture here when it's not blooming. And then when it does bloom, it'll shoot up a blooming stalk and have just a ton of these beautiful little yellow daisy-like flowers. Again, so incredibly hardy, and the butterflies and the bees love it. Autumn sage is great. This one you can get it in tons of different colors, pink, white, red, anything in between there. It's a small little shrubby type of thing. It's also evergreen, so it'll stay green during the winter time. A lot of times our winters, they can be really mild sometimes, and so this thing will keep on blooming throughout the winter time as well. And it loves radiative heat, so if you do have an area that has rocks, or maybe it's next to your driveway or something like that, this one is fine with that really hot heat that is coming off of those non-permeable areas. Lantana, most of us probably know about lantana, classic Texas plant. Hummingbirds love it, butterflies love it. After it gets done blooming, it creates a little berry, and then the songbirds come in and are eating the berry. So this is a great plant for wildlife. It's bushy. You can get this in all kinds of different colors. I will say, for most of these plants, if you're just looking at drought tolerance, you don't care about anything else, by all means, get it in purple, pink, whatever color you see at the store, it's going to be drought tolerant. If you care about pollinators, get our native one. That's this one. That's going to be like a dark orange all the way to a yellow. You're not going to see any pink or purple in it or red in it. That's our native one. A lot of these cultivars, what happens is they're still drought tolerant and everything, but the means that the nurseries go through to create these different types of bloom colors and things like that, it cuts off the reproductive function of the plant. So it's no longer creating nectar, it's no longer creating pollen, and so it might look like a beautiful flower for us, but then the bees are like, what is that? There's nothing there for me. So yeah, go ahead and get those drought tolerant adapted plants if that's all you care about, that drought tolerance, by all means, but don't be sad if you don't see any pollinators on it. I love the black dahlia. It's such an awesome plant. It looks really good when it's not blooming. You get this low mounding kind of little bush type thing. You can get it in like over to the right hand side. That's your more kind of like green type of leaf. And then you can see this one here has a little bit more of a dusty kind of gray type of bluish leaf. And so you can get either one, but it's in the pea family, so it's fixing nitrogen in our soils, but also just thousands of these tiny little pea flowers, and our native bees love it. Honeybees love it. If you want something that's going to attract honeybees, man, plant this, because it is going to do it for you. But loves it hot, loves it dry. Moonflower. These are so cool. They bloom at night once the sun hits them during the daytime. I don't even know how they got that picture of them. Because once the sun hits it during the day, the blooms die off, and they just bloom for one night only, and then they're done. But these are big blooms. I mean, they're like this big. So if you want to support those nighttime pollinators like moths and bats and beetles love it too. Bees love it. You see bees getting on it during the morning time before the direct sunlight has hit it. But These things are so incredibly drought tolerant and just so interesting. I definitely recommend them. Hallucinogenic, so don't eat it. And then grasses. There are so many awesome prairie grasses out there, native grasses that you can go with, but I love our blue stems. They're really gonna do you good. So little blue stem, big blue stem, bushy blue stem, split beard blue stem, silver blue stem. We got a lot of good blue stems out there. So I definitely recommend those in terms of if you're looking for some of those clumping style grasses. Indian grass is great too. The muley grasses can be okay, but some of the muleys, like Gulf muley for instance, it's a little bit less drought tolerant, and so it might need some water sometimes. And so if you're looking for something that is definitely not going to die during the droughty summertime, then I would go with a blue stem, definitely. A little blue stem, amazing grass. All right, and lastly, we've got our beautiful Texas wildflowers, y'all. There are so many, our diversity of wildflowers in Texas, I mean, we are so lucky. They are beautiful, and man, they don't need water. They just grow and look great. Some of these are perennials, but most of them are annuals. So like I said, these are going to die every year and come back from seed, right? And these are something that you would grow from seed. The liatris, the blazing star, that's a perennial. So you can, that'll come back year after year. I love the bee balm, the lemon mint. It's called lemon mint for a reason. You can make tea out of it. You can eat it. But this pagoda style flower, it's so interesting and just creates a lot of interest in your yard. We all know about blue bonnets, black-eyed Susans, Indian blankets, our Indian paintbrushes. These are all just, Mexican hat, all those are classic wildflowers, right? And these are just beautiful and don't really need any intervention. You can just go out and spread some seed and they'll do their thing.
Gaillardia has bloomed now. I have a big patch of it, and we just have the round balls. What do I do now? Wait, trim it? What do I do?
So you can, if you want, you can wait till its seeds are mature and you can collect those seeds and spread them like next season or something like that, or just leave it and let the birds eat some of the seeds, let the seeds drop naturally and it'll reseed itself. So some of these plants are better than others at reseeding themselves. Like if you have, let's say, a wildflower mix or something like that, yeah, it's optional. You can let it run its course, right? Let it reseed itself. But if you do have wildflowers and they start to look a little, dead, you can always go cut those down if you don't want it to look shaggy. A lot of times people will do that like in August after they're done blooming before our fall ones start to bloom, after the spring ones are finished.
Will I get a second crop if I trim them?
Probably not with annual plants. A lot of times the deadheading to do that's going to be like with perennial plants. Yeah. Okay. So you might, but probably not. You'll probably have to just wait until next year. Aww. Yep. All right, and then lastly, I want to talk about our high performance landscapes tool. This is a tool that I worked on actually when I worked here at BRIT. So previously to TRWD, my job was here at BRIT. I worked on sustainable landscaping research, and we created this tool. Me and a team of amazing biologists and ecologists created this. It's an Excel-based tool. It's completely free. Download it from our website. You go in and you can put in, I'll ask you a bunch of questions about your landscape, put in all the information, and it'll tell you how much water you can expect to use for that landscape. It'll tell you your carbon footprint associated with that landscape, and it'll tell you your effect on pollinators as well. And it will compare you to a traditional landscape, which is basically a St. Augustine landscape. So you can see how much water you are saving by making the choices that you're making, planting the plants that you're planting, that type of thing. And it asks you about all the things I talked about today, like mulch and your level of organic matter, how often are you mowing, all of those type of things. So I definitely recommend that. It's good if you maybe have some different design options, you want to compare them or whatever, or maybe you just want to know for your own sake, or maybe you want to know like, hey, how much money will I, save on my water bill, if I take this St. Augustine turf out and replace it with native plants. You can calculate all of that here in this free landscaping tool.
Is it mobile friendly?
If you have Excel on your phone or something that will open like an Excel document, so like Google Sheets or whatever, it's just a regular Excel file. And that's it. That's all I've got for you. I'll take questions or whatever. There's some resources for you. Definitely go visit safetarrantwater.com. We've got tons of awesome resources there. A lot of the things that I talked about today, if you want like more detail about a specific thing, like let's say rainwater harvesting or something like that, you can find that on our website. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you will see, you know, tons of different presentations just like this one. So if you want to drill further into one of these subjects, you can do that. And I don't know, you all might not have been here right at the beginning of the presentation, so I just want to pop this up there. We are offering free Go and Grow pollinator gardens this year. If you prove to us that you have removed a portion of your grass, healthy St. Augustine or Bermuda grass, and you're going to replace it with this pollinator garden, approximately 125 square foot or so, we will give you the pollinator garden for free. So if that's something you want to do, yeah. Go on there. They aren't on sale yet, but I think they're going to go on sale maybe like next week or something like that, or maybe in the next 2 weeks. But you can go ahead and go on here. You can pre-apply. You take a picture of your area of grass that you're going to, you're going to remove, and then we will approve you. You buy the box, and then we give you a full rebate for it. It's $85 for 24 plants. And then once you show us pictures of your grass actually removed and the new plants in the place, we give you the $85 right on back to your credit card or whatever your method of payment was.
So how much
Yeah.
is about 125?
Okay, so think about
2 Kelseys by 1.5 Kelseys.
there you go.
If you'd like, I can lay down on the floor.
10 foot by 10 foot to 10 foot by 12 foot. Yeah. Question?
Do you know if you can separate those 10 foot by 11 into 2 separate foot, a total of 125?
Yeah, you can separate it out as long as you're removing turf in both of those areas. Yes, you can. It doesn't have to be all together. No.
There was a long
Back in the backpack?
Yeah, okay, so how do you remove your lawn?
Ah.
Recommendations?
Yes, go to the website. We've got instructions for that. And that's the thing. Right now is the perfect time to begin solarizing it. So you can do it manually if you want to like put the work in. You can just do a sod cutter or like manually just remove it. But you can go ahead and solarize your lawn now. It will die over the summertime for the rest of the summer. And then by the time September 27th rolls around and it's time to go get your pollinator garden, your grass will be dead, and then you're ready to plant. But yeah, we've got plenty of instructions there about that on the website, so check that out. What? Yep.
Is this the shade?
The shade garden? No, this is the pollinator garden. So yeah, for fall, they're offering 2 different ones, a shade garden and a pollinator garden, but we are only offering the rebate for the pollinator garden.
I take it doesn't count if you just have a yard full of weeds. It has to
Yep, it has to be healthy turf grass that you have clearly been irrigating in the past, because yeah, we're trying to get you to stop irrigating your grass, basically, right? Yeah?
I think it said it had to have like 8 hours of sun, and it was already...
Yeah, for the pollinator garden, you need like a full sun area. Yep. It doesn't have to necessarily be 8 hours. I mean, it could be a little bit less than that, and I think you'd be all right, like 6 hours or so, but I wouldn't go below 6 hours probably, yeah. Question back there?
Do you know if there's any rules about that area between the sidewalk and the street? Doesn't that belong to the city technically?
No, go ahead and plant some stuff there.
Okay, but we can kill that.
Yeah, kill it. Kill it. There's a lot of rules about irrigating that now. Previously, back in the day, we would put spray irrigation there, but it would overspray so often. It's hard to get it, keep it there. So now when you're installing irrigation, you're not allowed to put spray irrigation in those areas. It has to be like drip irrigation. So a lot of times people just don't irrigate that spot at all. We like to call it the health strip because it's hot. It gets that reflective heat. A lot of people don't irrigate it. It is a perfect place for something like this. Yeah.
I have a quick question about trees.
Yeah.
If you can help me. I have a tree, it's about so tall now, it started growing in one of my planter pots.
Uh-huh.
I have no idea where it came from or what kind of tree it is. So how can I find out what kind of tree it is, and I don't want to put it in my yard?
Yeah.
So can I like take it somewhere? I have no idea
Yeah, so there are a few different like Texas tree identification websites that will talk about some of the more common trees that you will probably see. And so you could, look at the leaves and compare them to some of those. You could also go to wildflower.org and look at some of their trees, but those are going to be only native trees. But there's some pretty common things. It's probably from a squirrel or something, right? Like bearing a nut. It could be an acorn or a pecan or something like that. But it could be something like, there's a really common tree. They call it the tree of heaven, but it is not heavenly at all. You want to kill it if you see it. And so it might be one of those things where you do just want to, kill it. So just depending on what type. I don't know of anywhere that takes tree donations, not to my knowledge. Nope.
Somebody you don't like.
Right. Well, like I said, it depends on what type of tree it is. If it's a good one, maybe somebody will take it. If it's a tree of heaven or something like that, you might just want to let it die.
I was gonna say, if you have a tree of heaven, don't just cut it because it will multiply.
Yeah, it'll just keep going. Try to dig it up or something like that. But if it's already in a pot, you could just uproot it. Yeah. You got some online?
Yes, we have a question online from Jane, and I just lost it. Here we go. She wanted to know from earlier in the conversation, does buffalo grass have any pest concerns? Examples like ticks or mites or anything like that?
No, actually it's really good in terms of pests. Like St. Augustine is pretty weak when it comes to like grub worms will get it, it gets diseases and all that type of stuff. Buffalo grass is really resilient. But if you're thinking about like, is it going to bring pests into your yard like fleas or like mites or something like that? Like, no, that would come from an outside source, not from the grass.
Perfect, thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, back in the back there?
Do you recommend a garden center for the native plants?
Yes. Yeah, go to SaveTarrantWater.com, take a look at our native plant pollinator page, and we've got a list there. Native Plant Society of Texas also has a list of what they call their nice nurseries. So they have two different lists, one of nurseries that specialize in native plants and another one of nurseries that don't necessarily specialize in it, but carry native plants. So there's some really good ones out there that specialize in native plants, and if you go to them, probably what you're going to get is going to be a native plant. Eco Blossom Nursery is a really good one. Definitely, that's one that you can order online and then go pick it up. Weston Gardens is awesome. Like, I definitely recommend going out to Weston Gardens if you've never been there. It's in far south Fort Worth, near like Everman area. And there's Native Gardeners, there's Nativo Gardens. Those are just off the top of my head, but yeah, we've got a whole list online if you want to look at that.
You can also pick up natives at the plant sale they have.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, so Botanical Gardens has a plant sale that they'll do usually in the spring and the fall. Also, the Native Plant Society of Texas will do plant sales in the spring and the fall as well. I recommend both of those. There are some other ones like Discovery Gardens in Dallas will do like a pollinator plant sale. So there are several different plant sales. Rooted In is one. They're the ones that provide these Go and Grow gardens, but they are pretty far away. They're in like Pilot Point or something like that. So it's definitely a trip to get out there, but they've got some good plants as well.
So one thing do here for Brett, the plant sale, the prices are very reasonable. You won't find them any cheaper.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of the plant sales, it's more reasonable than like a nursery because they don't have the overhead, right, of all the nursery stuff that they're paying for. HEB carries native plants sometimes too, so check out your HEB. I don't know if they only do it in certain times of year, like spring and fall or whatever, but fall is the time to plant native plants. If you're going to make landscape changes, plan during the summer, plant during the fall. So get your design together now, get your plant list or whatever, wait a few months until September or so, and then go pick up all your plants and plant them during the fall. Yep.
For like a landscape plan, are there, like if I didn't want to do it all myself and partner with somebody, is there like a list of different like landscape architects?
Yeah, take a look at our, the Green Professionals list on SaveTarrantWater.com will have some of those, and you can see, like, it'll say what they specialize in, like, on the side, so you can just look for ones that specialize in, like, plant designs or, like, native plant designs. You can also just, do a Google search of, like, native plant designers, and there are a few in this area, yeah. I think Weston Gardens and Eco Blossom both do design services, I'm pretty sure, so those are those are options as well. Yep. Okay. You got a question?
Just a comment. I
Yeah.
have a tree question. There's an app called Picture This, which seems to do a pretty good job.
Ah, yep. Yeah.
Just take a picture of the plant or
For like
whatever. and
Google Lens and stuff like that, yeah.
Picture This.
Or iNaturalist.
iNaturalist, yeah. I would definitely just be weary of those things, like double check it, right? Like get it to give you a list of what it thinks it is, and then double check that with other, cross-reference with other photos and things like that. Just depending on how the plant is, sometimes it can,
Generated by the public, they're not necessarily scientists.
Yeah. So they can be, just depending on how it is. But yes, that's a great option and can give you a reduced list at least of the options of what it could be instead of looking at like the giant list of every tree that is in Texas, which is a lot. Okay, do we got any other questions? Any other online questions? All good?
Everyone's saying thank you, and they
Great.
enjoyed it very much online.
Oh, thank
so.
you. Thanks for hearing about my stuff today. Yeah, thank you.
So thank you so much to Heather for that awesome presentation. Keep in mind that Fort Worth Water Conservation, our team aims to reduce residential water use to 58 gallons per capita per day by 2029. To achieve this, we're going to focus on minimizing our water loss and waste and improving efficiency and promoting smart outdoor water use. Our programs always include free water saving seminars, free smart flush toilets for those who are eligible, and free leak repairs for those who also meet the eligibility requirements. Keep in mind that you can receive a free irrigation evaluation year-round. They are sponsored by both Tarrant Regional Water District and the City of Fort Worth. Yep. This is the time to get them done. You do need to have an operational irrigation system, but if you're already out there getting that done, you're going to pull out that landscape for Heather. You're going to get that grow and go box. I mean, you're already out there, do the work. So lots to look forward to. Keep in mind, if you guys ever need to get a hold of the water conservation team, you can always reach us at waterconservation@fortworthtexas.gov or visit our website, which is savefortworthwater.org. Now for the moment you all are waiting for, anxiously, the next class. Did you know it's going to be on Texas trees? I couldn't have planned that better myself. So please put on your calendars that August 14th, it's Thursday, August 14th, 2025. We had to change it, and so yes, so that's why we're re-announcing the date. So it is updated to August 14th. It will not be in this room. I repeat, it will not be in this room. Why is that important? Because we are going to make you guys go to the main building in the main lecture hall where we have Yard Smart traditionally over there. So we will have intern probably out front saying, not here, close, you're so close. Go back to your car, drive closer to the main entrance and the main Botanic Gardens, but we will be in the large lecture hall. We will have signs, we will have extra interns running around to help you guys get there. So just keep in mind, August 14th. Just kidding, it's in the Rose Room. We'll get signs. We'll make sure we're there. Okay. So thank you guys so much. Those tickets go on sale tonight at midnight. Book your spaces soon because it's going to be a packed class. We know for sure. All right, thanks everyone.
Thank you.